Hi Year 8s, this is Mr. Lowe again with your reproduction lesson part 2. And just to recap, we learnt about two basic methods of reproduction, and the first one was sexual reproduction, where you need two parents. The second was asexual reproduction, and it only needs one parent, and it creates a clone of the parent. Now over here you've got aphids, and this one over here is genetically identical to this one over here. Okay, that's asexual reproduction. So asexual reproduction is the production of offspring by only one parent. No fertilization of an egg cell or mixing up of the genes takes place, so all the offspring are genetically identical. Okay, so they're identical copies of the parent. And green flies, hydras, and strawberry plants can all reproduce asexually as well as sexually. So these guys can do both. Okay, the hydra is the hydrozoan. Just to remember, there is no sperm or eggs required in asexual reproduction. In plants, asexual reproduction can occur by spores or vegetative reproduction, and these are the following vegetative reproductive methods. So you've got runners, stem tubers, bulbs, underground stems, root suckers, tap roots, and these are runners. Now we're not talking about these runners over here. We are talking about runners that look like this down here. So runners, and along the stems run along the ground surface. And they send down roots at intervals. So over here this is the ground and it's sending roots down. Just like this in this strawberry plant over here. The next one is a stem tuber, and the plants that show this are potatoes and also yams. Now swellings called tubers are attached to the stem underground and full of stored food. So here's this tuber over here, and it's full of food, and this helps, this reproduces, and you can see there's another one over here from the parent up here. So these are genetically identical. The next reproductive method is called bulbs. It happens in onions, tulips, and daffodils, and underground leaves are full of stored food. Underground leaves are full of stored food. So this is the bulb over here. The next one is the underground stem, and in here the plants that show this are bamboo and bracken. Okay, so stems run along underground and send up shoots at intervals. Send up leaves. So over here, this is the stem that runs underground, and then it shoots up a leaf at intervals, and then it grows up to a bigger plant here. Okay, underground stems. Then you've got root suckers, and the ones that show this are the eucalypts. Okay, and the roots send up stems when they come near the surface. So this is a root, and it's not fully underground, but it's just near the top of the ground, and when it hits near the surface, like here, it sends up a root sucker which goes straight up again, and it makes a new plant. And lastly, it's tap roots. This is the last vegetative method, and you have carrots and beetroot that show this, and swollen roots are full of stored food. So again, here you go, this is the tap root over here, and this is full of stored food, and this keeps reproducing asexually. Now just a note, there's something called grafting and tree shaping, and grafting is where you put two tissues of different plants together, and you join them together and they can grow. Now this is taken, the advantage of this is taken advantage of in asexual growing of plants. So if you've gone to Bunnings and bought some plants there, most likely they've been used this grafting technique, and it means that the plants can grow quicker by being inserted onto a parent plant. And this is called tree shaping. So these trees have been split and then joined back together, and they are asexually reproducing to combine together again. And here is one of a man who's made a chair out of tree shaping. So, reproducing by spores. Fungi and plants such as ferns and mosses use spores to asexually reproduce. A spore is a microscopic single cell which is spread by a process called dispersal. Spores have a protective wall around them but are very light and easily carried by wind, insects, or animals. Now, this is probably the most world's famous fungi, but it looks more like this. So you might have seen this in your lunchbox before. This is all fungi, and they reproduce by spores. So a little bit of fungi spore will join onto here, and it'll spread, and that's how it keeps spreading around. Not this guy. Now, asexual reproduction in simple organisms. It occurs in microbes and bacteria and protozoa. These are tiny, simple organisms, and they are single-celled. And the process by which they divide is called binary fission. And they would double in growth each time. So if you have a look here, this is one bacteria, and it splits just like this, and it makes two. So in really simple organisms. So if it's in 40 minutes, you would have 2. In 60 minutes, you'd have 4. And then in 80 minutes, you'd have 8. 100 minutes, you'd have 16. And 120 minutes, you'd have 32. Okay, so bacteria can double every 20 minutes. Then you've got something, another type of reproduction called parthenogenesis, which is asexually reproducing, and it's also known as a virgin birth. Okay, so without fertilization. So young are produced from unfertilized eggs. And it's usually invertebrates, which are animals without a backbone, but are also discovered in whiptail lizards. So in this population of whiptail lizards, these are all identical. So this is the biggest mum, and she would have laid an egg, and when that hatches out, it would have made another female here. Now there are no males, no boys allowed, and there are no males at all in this whiptail population. All they do is they lay an egg, and that hatches to make another female, and that's how they reproduce. So no males and no sperm. Asexual reproduction and the environment. Asexual reproduction is beneficial because some environments make it harder for animals to locate each other. Therefore, instead of wasting energy to find a partner, you can reproduce on your own. It is good for animals that can't move, and it's also good in environments that are stable and unchanging. Okay, so in this environment here, this is changing, so it's not a very good place to be asexually reproducing. But if you've got an environment which doesn't change very much, you're able to take advantage of that. Let me illustrate this point of asexual reproduction and the environment using Pokemon. So let's just say you had an asexual Pikachu. You could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of Pikachu. Okay, even 6 of asexual Pikachu, and they are all genetically identical. Now what happens when a harsh environment comes along? So you've got a wild Dugtrio appeared, and this is an example of a harsh environment. So Dugtrio uses earthquake, and unfortunately, because all the Pikachus are the same and they're genetically identical, they all faint. So asexual Pikachu fainted. You did not have any genetically different Pikachu to face the harsh environment. So if Pikachu was bred sexually, meaning it had some genetic variation, or it was different to its brothers and sisters, then it might have been able to survive. So this is the last challenge question. Propose why asexual reproduction is commonly found in watery environments, so like the ocean or rivers, compared to land environments. Okay, so I hope you have a shot at that question and see how you go for next lesson. Make sure you bring your completed handout to next lesson as well. Thank you. Bye.